was actually kind of interesting. So Jillian has had kind of a rough spot for about, I would say, close to a month now. Initially, she got sick. We got the treadmill. She wanted to use it, and she's been sick ever since, so she hasn't been able to use it.
Classic.
Yep. And then...
And this is the Nordic Trek, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is this absolute steal that you got.
So it's
those are slick.
Originally, it's like $1,500-$1,600, something like that. Actually, I think it's more than that. But we got it for like, I think $250. It was a steal, and the thing's brand new. It was hardly used.
But that's what people do. They go buy it for
buy
their New
it,
Year's
and then
resolution, and
they
they
don't
keep it
use
for
it.
a whole year, and then they realize they can't sell it.
Yep.
And they said, I just don't want this dumb thing in my house. And so they
Right.
unload it for a fraction.
Right, exactly.
There you go.
And she got sick. She used it once, got sick, wasn't able to use it again. Then I think it wasn't this past Sunday, but it was the Sunday before that. We had gotten coffee, breakfast. We have a date every Sunday. That's how we do stuff.
Nice.
And she fell out of my truck and cracked her head on the concrete in the parking lot at the church. Spilled her coffee everywhere.
Oh, this is okay.
Remember that day I came up to you and I was
She
like,
cracked her head?
Not like hard. I mean,
dude, I'm still injured. I'm going to see the doctor for my back. I hurt my back.
Yeah. And she hurt her back and stuff. And then
don't sue the church.
No, it's never the church's fault.
Actually, it was in public property. That's not the church's property.
But
close one, huh?
So she fell. She fell, hurt herself. Wasn't able to use the treadmill still. There is actually a point to this. Just have faith.
I have great faith in you.
And so, mind you, this is like 2 weeks now. She hasn't been able to use the treadmill. And you know, she had this whole plan in her head. She wanted to do this. She wanted to do that. She wanted to be healthy. You know, she wanted to feel healthy. She wanted to do things to feel healthy.
Right. And
she hasn't been able to do it. So she's been really down and depressed on herself. And, you know, so she became a Christian and whatnot, and she's starting to notice things in her Christian walk that are beginning.
Right.
The trials and the tribulations
and
all the fun stuff. And so, you know, she makes the jokes with the flaming arrows, but she's starting to understand what I'm saying now. She's like, okay, I mean, it doesn't need to be world ending. It's just world ending in my world kind of thing. You know, what I mean by that is like falling out of a truck and not being able to exercise after you had your heart set on exercising that day.
Yeah, I sympathize with her because I had the same mentality. Like I had a doctor's appointment on Monday. It was my 9-month appointment, and they're going to basically ask me, are you, they're going to look at my echocardiogram. They're going to say whether or not I'm cleared to go exercise. And I'm like, I've been waiting for this thing, since a while.
Right.
And I'm waiting on this and thinking I'm feeling great. And so they're going to basically give me a green light. And what do? A day before Jillian, I fell and out of my car, getting out, same deal, same storm. And now I hurt my back, and just getting up, walking around is killing me. And I had this whole goal of doing that. And it's so frustrating when you're trying to do the right thing, and then you feel like, is there a spiritual battle behind this? Because like, all I want to do is be healthy, And the same thing was true with half the equipment that we were working on for this podcast was far more of a nightmare to procure and put together than I think should be reasonable. And I was sort of like, I wonder if someone doesn't want us to do this podcast.
The advancement of God's kingdom will always try to be stopped. It's like
the flaming arrows.
Or how should I word that? The advancement of the kingdom has always tried to be stopped.
Yeah, it's met with resistance.
Yeah,
that's right.
And I mean, I guess my point of it is, feeling like everything's against you. I think new Christians have the tendency to think that God is punishing them.
Yes. Yes.
God is. It's almost like it's not disciplining. Disciplining is different. It's almost like God is making you guilty. You feel guilty of something, like you did something wrong.
Oh, right.
So
It's
now,
going badly for me now
Yeah.
because I messed up somewhere.
I messed
and
up
God is
somewhere,
now
yeah.
doing this bad thing or allowing this bad thing because I messed up.
Yeah.
And this, of course, is mostly untrue.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm
mostly.
sure there are scenarios where,
Sure.
you know, if you rob a bank and then your
You
life
break
starts
your ankle
falling
after
apart.
you run away from the bank. God might have had something. But I mean, you know, we'll say in my girlfriend's case,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, God loves everyone and especially his people.
Yeah.
And, you know, I always say this to people, especially new Christians, because I found it so profound when I heard it.
Yeah.
I was in Celebrate Recovery. That was something, I was going through a period of my life where I needed that.
Yeah.
With dealing with addiction and other things. And the pastor there, his name was Calvin Robinson. Super smart dude. Out of all, I think it was like 9 weeks, 9 months, I can't remember. It was a long time ago. I learned one thing from it.
Okay.
And, you know, it was a message talking about moral inventories, like kind of like the middle of the entire thing. Like now we're getting down to the nitty gritty. Here's the hard stuff.
Right.
And
That's
so,
where you got to take a hard look at your life and your
Yep.
heart and say, what's really in there?
Right.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
he said something, and the day that he said that, my ears were open. And what he said was, if your guilt and shame pull you from your faith, that is not a godly sorrow. And
Wow.
And that hit me like a train.
That's a fantastic insight.
Because, I mean,
Yeah.
God would never do something to pull you away from believing in him. He would never
Right.
stop you from worshiping him.
Right.
So those are those flaming arrows, man. They get everybody.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I have a dear friend, David Bulkley, and he was extremely influential in my life at a time when my marriage, I was messing it all up.
Mm-hmm.
My marriage was not going well, and they were helping us and really restored my relationship to God and to my wife. And, you know, he would say to me, he'd say to me all the time, he would say, listen, man, he's like, if you're not a threat to the devil, he goes, why would he ever put his scope on you? And he goes, and if you're a threat to the devil, he's like, then he's got a bullseye on you and he's trying to take you down.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, so there are all kinds of bad things that happen in the world. Okay. Like I'm not going to say that, I'm not going to presume to fully understand the scope of God's sovereignty and how that plays out in human agency and our decision-making process,
Right.
or whether or not, like, you know, there's a famous joke about hyper-Calvinists. What did the hyper-Calvinist say after he fell down the stairs? Thank God that's over. Like, in other words, like God's sovereignty. And you know, I think there is a something to be said about that God's sovereignty does extend to every atom of the universe, right? But I just don't know that it actually works out like that. Like God in this foreknowledge and his understanding and power predetermined or something that Jillian would fall. Like I just don't know that the universe actually works that way.
Yeah,
that God even made it that way.
I mean, okay, I see where you're going.
And so what I'm trying to
Right.
say is that there's a number of reasons. That was a long way of saying I think there's a lot of spiritually legitimate a spectrum of why things happen.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So
I don't
you
think
use
every fall and bump on your knee was exactly planned.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
nor is every fall and bump the disciplinary action of God. I thought your joke about the bank robber breaking his ankle on the way out, that's funny.
See,
You know what I
normal
mean?
people would call that karma.
Okay.
You know,
Right. Okay.
and, or you know, bad luck. I mean,
Yeah.
you rob a bank, you know, and you thought you got away with it. I don't believe in karma.
Oh,
but-
I don't either. Yeah,
but
no.
I
can
do-
see
I
why
do-
people
I
see
do
it as
believe
dynamic.
if I were to go and rob a bank,
Yeah.
I got 50 grand in my pocket.
You'd probably get away with it. for temporary, I mean.
Yeah.
temporary.
We'll say I had the money for a week, right?
Okay.
Just for the hypothetical purposes here, and I break my ankle.
Yeah.
I know internally
Yeah.
there's a reason I broke my ankle,
Sure. Yeah.
and it could be just because I stepped off the curb wrong,
Yeah.
or because I stole $50,000 that wasn't mine.
Yeah, so I want to go back to the treadmill thing and the me falling and Jillian falling.
Yeah.
I think that and particularly with technology in the church in this last year has 2 years now since COVID. We had at Bridgepoint the basic infrastructure of live streaming and things like that. Okay, we had thought ahead on that. We were probably moving slower than what would probably be helpful for COVID. But when COVID hit, it wasn't like we didn't have the basic essentials. What we didn't have was the ability to do it well and consistently. And it was constantly breaking and constantly messing up. And every new improvement I tried to get, or every new time I've tried to make some kind of broadening the illustration, every new time I try to make some kind of a new initiative, either personally or corporately at our church, to be able, and I mean me personally, like my own personal life, I want to grow in this particular way, right? Dude, I get slammed. And it does not surprise me that this is happening with our equipment. It does not surprise me this is happening in Jillian's life. And one of the things that we have to do is we have to constantly be doing 2 things. First, we have to be fully exploring God's word to know what God's word actually says about the world and our place in it,
right,
so that we don't make false assumptions that God's punished me, he doesn't love me anymore, right? And then the other is to have conversations and live in community with one another, so we care for each other, so that Jillian and you and other people know that they're not alone, and that God has not abandoned them. Because I have always maintained, and maybe it's just because I'm an emotional, tactile person, I've always said that you will feel and know the love of God precisely when someone who has God's Spirit expresses that to you.
I like how you put that.
It is so powerful. And people talk about hypotheticals, like if you become Tom Hanks in Castaway, can you know the love of God if you're on a desert island by yourself? Like, do you need a Bible if you're on that island to grow? And all of these are like crazy hypothetical scenarios. You know what I mean? And I think the answer is, of course you can know the love of God if you're by yourself. Of course God's Spirit can speak to you. But in the normal operational way that God made us to be born into families, to live in communities, you know what I mean?
Right.
That is a primary way that he causes us to know his love. And I feel like when we go through these trials, we've got to see them as either attacks from the devil, right? And setbacks, and see them for what they are, and don't ever give up, and then constantly be connecting with one another so that we don't.
And I mean, I really like that bank robbing scenario.
Okay.
Not because I like bank robbing.
Sure.
It's more like, to new Christians, it's not so much that the ankle breaking, it's wondering if they robbed the bank or not. It's just like they need the reassurance that they didn't rob the bank, if that makes sense.
No, keep going.
So what I for me, when I made the swap from my previous life to becoming a Christian, I think I had trouble deciphering between guilt and conviction.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so in my head, everything was guilt. I didn't understand conviction. And so I always took the blame for everything, and I was always guilty for this. I was always at fault for this. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think when you get used to doing that so much, you begin to think you robbed the bank.
Oh, I see now. One of the things
you think that you're being punished for something that you didn't even do.
Well, just let's go back to, Calvin's core observation. He said, you can repeat it perfectly for me, but basically the idea is that, and this comes straight from the scriptures, there's a godly sorrow that leads to repentance, right? Yep. But then there's a guilt that comes from the devil that will destroy and poison, toxify your soul, right? And the way I always understand the difference between guilt and conviction is that guilt beats me down and sets me back.
Precisely.
Right? And conviction motivates me to do something positive or to cut out something negative and do something positive different.
Exactly.
And that both of these feelings feel very similar, but they're not the same.
Not the same at all.
They don't have the same result.
And it's like for someone who isn't, or maybe hasn't experienced conviction and they're starting to.
Right.
Because they're so similar.
Yep.
The only way that you know how to process something is by comparing it to something that you're used to and see all the time. Being guilty.
Sure.
If I've been guilty my whole life and I've been convicted once, 99% of the time I'm going to think it's guilt because it's just not common.
Well, that's what you've been experiencing the whole time. So now you're like, oh, this is guilt. Right.
And I mean, I'm not saying that she feels convicted. I'm just saying I think...
Well, it's a launching place to think about
right.
What has happened to her, why has this happened,
and I think
how should she feel about it.
She thinks that she's at fault for something, so that's why she fell and hurt herself. Or that's why she can't work out and continue to live a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
Or she's been sick, so she can't go anywhere, so she feels, she has cabin fever and stuff like that.
Right.
So, because she, in her mind, robbed the bank.
Right.
Even though she had nothing to do with the bank, she wasn't even close to it.
Right.
That's settled on her heart, and it's like, how to, what's the word I'm looking for? How to help a new Christian as a little bit of a seasoned one understand that you didn't rob the bank. I think it just takes time.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid. This is going to seem trivial, but it was a big deal to me. Mm-hmm. When I was in middle school, I made the basketball team, and I was starting on the basketball team. And I had practice, and I practiced my shots, and I'd miss something simple like a layup, or I'd brick a shot that I thought was wide open or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I started wondering if God was punishing me by having me miss shots. And I went to my youth pastor at the time, Jackson Crum, and I talked to him, and the approach that he took, and I think it's a foundational approach, but the more I've thought about it, I think that there's more to it. He said that's not the way the grace of God works.
Right.
He says, Jesus doesn't save you on the cross. God did not send His Son to die for you so that there could be additional punishment that would be leveled on you later on down the pipeline when you screwed up. Because as a young kid, I was really struggling with lust and all kinds of new things.
It's not like a subscription where you got to pay a monthly fee. Like, he did it forever.
I felt that way. And so I think one of the things we want to say is foundationally, we never ever get beyond the grace of God, and we always have to go back and remind ourselves the solid grace of God is that God loved us so much that He would be willing to have His Son pay 100% past, present, future punishment for any infraction that we would do.
Amen.
Things that we say, do, or think, left undone or done, right? Of course, this doesn't give us a license to behave any way we want, but when bad things happen to us, what we can know is two things. Number one, that is not happening to us because God is leveling some kind of punishment on us, because it has been fully satisfied in Jesus. And number two, if God is trying to teach us a lesson by allowing, let's per se, bad things to happen to us in some kind of connected consequence of things that we've done, right? He is doing this because He loves us, and He's going to build us up.
That's disciplining.
Yes, and this is what we talked about.
Right. The difference between
Hebrews 12, I believe, talks about this, that what father doesn't discipline their children? If they don't discipline their children, they're proving that they don't love their kids.
And if we end up taking this whole audio and we keep it just for fun and my dad ever hears it, anytime that my dad has disciplined me, it's because I did something wrong.
You actually did something wrong. Right.
I actually did something wrong. I robbed the bank.
This is not okay. We cannot keep doing this.
He's never just came in my room and punched me in the face just because I'm ugly. Like, I can't help you with that.
Right. He didn't. Your father.
And God doesn't do the same thing. Your father didn't rob the bank.
Right. Well, I
If
guess
you go through a season in your life, I mean, for me, I mean, you know, I can only speak from what I've experienced. I can't speak for other people. But, I mean, you know, I might have been around a group of friends at a time that I thought were my whole life early in my Christian walk.
right.
And, you know, I started to notice some mannerisms about them and this and that kind of pulled me, or I felt pulled away from it.
Right.
And it's like, and then something happened to me in that situation that turned out bad. And I learned an internal lesson from that. And I feel like that is something that God does. It's like, hey, you know, I'm gonna put this challenge in your lap.
Yep.
I'm gonna help you through the whole thing.
Sure.
It's gonna hurt, but you being with me the whole time and trusting that I got you is all that I want.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
And it's like having that confidence and learning that was pinnacle for me, because now if I go through any suck, it's like, all right, well, I mean, Jesus went through a lot worse.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And, you know, I probably could too. I mean, like, you know what I mean? I got a sword the day that he said, when your guilt or shame pull you away from your faith, that is not a godly sorrow. Because now I'm able to split between, okay, this is the devil.
Yep.
This is God.
Yeah.
And it's like, she hasn't had that epiphany yet, I should say.
Yeah.
So it's like she thinks,
I mean, knowing her, I'm pretty sure she's there. She's
she's brilliant. I'm not.
So I want to shift up a little bit. Let's talk a little bit more about the arrows. Okay, so
they're accurate too.
They are. The devil does, unfortunately, he's quite a marksman. The shield of faith is capable of making those arrows so that they don't injure or stop us, but they can be really annoying and set you back. So one of the things that is curious is I feel like there's this spectrum of Christianity where, let's put it, there's a devil behind every bush. In other words, every single thing, and I'm going to use a word that I have coined, it gets super spiritualized, right?
Okay.
Super spiritualized, right?
I know that up what you're putting down, guys.
Everything is spiritual and everything is physical for a human being, because we are not made as spiritual entities alone. We are body and spirit.
Yes.
We have a spiritual and physical component, and some people believe there's a third component of a soul. That might be the mind or the consciousness. I don't cross swords with people who argue about what's called the tripartite, or the, you're
speaking gibberish to me.
That means you have a body, a soul, and a spirit.
Right.
And some people believe you only have a body and a spirit, and the spirit and the soul are just the same thing, just two different names. Okay? So there are these people, going back to our core. What are these arrows? There's people who super spiritualize everything, and they say every bad thing, anything that ever happened to me, there's a devil behind every bush, and they go around casting out the devil of your cold, like you came in with the froggy throat, you know what I mean? And I could, that's a devil. Well, it might be a distant result of the sin in the world that the devil tempted and we fell into, but I don't know that your sickness or mine is some kind of arrow of the evil one.
No,
right?
It's called, Jillian told me to do a neti pot and I didn't do it. So that's why I sound
well, you should listen to your girl, right?
Yep.
So, and then the other side is the spectrum is making everything non-supernatural, just completely natural. In other words, there's no spiritual origin to anything. Jillian falling in the parking lot and not being able to do her exercise, me falling, right? Nothing is spiritual about this. There's nothing to be gained or lost there. It's just what happens. And my question is, how do we perceive or rightly judge? We talked about guilt and conviction. I think that's really key. How do we rightly judge or understand when, and I'm not sitting here with some ready-made answer. I'm wide open on this one. I've got some thoughts, but how do we know when it's an arrow or is just a product of the fact that the world is not a perfect place?
I think it's good question.
Did I stump you? Do we need some more time to think about it? You want me to yammer on so you can?
No,
you can stop listening to me. I know you don't listen to me, but I know you do.
No, man, that's a good question.
I don't know. For me, I feel like, you know, I'm a Bible guy. Okay.
Well, you have to be.
Well, you should be, right?
Yeah.
And I want all of my worldview and my philosophical thinking, my ethical thinking. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
All of that, I want that to be in harmony or directed by. Those are two kind of different things. The Word of God. Okay. I'm not one of these strict biblicists that think that they make an invented world where the Bible is exhaustive and they think God designed the Bible to explain every single thing. Like that, and then they say they're pro-science or something like that,
right.
And they try to scientificify the Bible in places that it has no reference to science,
mm-hmm.
right? I'm not going to step on any toes by giving examples, but I believe they're out there. But for me, I want the Bible to be in explaining and informing everything that I do. So we could think of examples that come from the Bible, but what I typically think is that I just have this inner sense. It's almost like a hunch or a conviction, not in the same way, a sense, if you will, that I'm like, yeah, this is totally spiritual. This is like happening.
Well, let me ask you this. Have you ever been bullied in your life?
Oh, when I was a kid, I got the snot kicked out of me.
Yeah, same here. Did you know when you were getting bullied by the bully?
Did I know that it was bullying while I was being bullied, real time?
No. Did you know? Or were you able? So, when he was talking to you versus when he was bullying you, you were aware that he was bullying you, correct?
Yes.
I think subconsciously, we know when it's flaming arrows. We know when we're getting bullied.
I think this is similar to what I'm expressing.
Yeah.
But I can't. What I'm trying to say is I can't always trace that back.
No, you can't.
To some
because
text and verse.
I don't think you have to. I think.
Well, I don't either. But some people are these radical biblicists.
Sure,
you know what I'm saying?
And let them live in their crazy cabin. But
okay.
For me, I think it's more like sometimes he just likes to bully you.
Definitely. I mean, we know from Ephesians
mm-hmm.
that the devil is shooting arrows.
Mm-hmm.
We know from 1 Peter that he's a prowling lion. He
Yep.
wants to devour us,
Mm-hmm.
right? We know these things,
Yep.
okay? So he's on the attack, right? And then the question then comes, what is an attack? What does an attack look like? I
think there's such a broad spectrum of severity that it's so hard to pinpoint an answer to that question because I look at flaming arrows as falling out of your truck and spilling your coffee as much as someone holding a gun to your face.
Okay.
So there's no, I don't think there's a definitive part where it becomes a flaming arrow. It might just be an arrow, not a flaming one. But,
yeah.
at the end of the day, I mean, I think he's just bullying. I think he's a bully.
Well,
and I mean...
Well, let me go far afield for just a second and bring
Sure.
us back to the bullying, okay? So one of my favorite passages in Scripture, just because I find it so absolutely fascinating, is Acts chapter 16, okay? And if you spend enough time with me, you'll hear me talk like Acts 16 like I'm a broken record, a skipping CD. I don't even think we have that problem with digital world anymore. You know what I mean? I don't think we have that problem with the digital world anymore. I don't think we have that. You understand, right? Okay, so...
Is it bad that I didn't realize you were doing that?
No, it's okay.
I'm a space cadet sometimes.
No, it's fine. So in Acts 16, the Apostle Paul and his team are going through Turkey, and they have this idea that they want to go into this region called Asia, and they're not able to do it. And what the text says is that the Spirit of God prohibited them from going into that place. Now, this is the real, and then, okay, to fast forward the conclusion, Paul has this dream that there's this guy, and clearly he was wearing northern Grecian clothes, culturally, You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so he knew that this guy was from Macedonia. And he said, I know where we're supposed to go. We're supposed to get on a boat, cross over from Turkey into Greece, and we're going to go to Macedonia because I had this dream. This Macedonian man says, come over. And he goes there, and they have really great experience with Lydia and Philippi. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, back to the main part of the story. How in the world, except for extreme hindsight, did they know that it was the Spirit of God stopping them versus a flaming arrow? Right? Now, real time.
Man, you got some good questions.
Real time, I really wonder what happened to them. Did someone get sick? Were there officials and governments that stopped them? Was there a series of unfortunate events, unlike Lemony Snicket's?
It's almost like hints.
Yeah, like what happened?
Like an elbow nudge.
So like, let's take modern day. You and I, let's say we want to go visit someone in Wisconsin, okay? We're going to go up and visit someone in Wisconsin, and our mission is to share the love of God with them, okay? And
it's a cool mission.
All right, it's a good mission. So we get in our car, right? And we drive, and we hit nothing but traffic. And we try to go around downtown Chicago. We take 294 and we try to go by the airport. That's jammed up, right? And we're texting furiously saying to this person, I'm sorry, we're really late. Like, what can we do, right? Then our car breaks down, right? Then we get there and there's some kind of like roadblock and there's a giant accident and the police come and they try to tell us that we're entering into this space illegally. And we're like, no, he lives right there. Right? At what point do you go, God doesn't want me to do this? Or do you go, well, this is just nothing but a series of flaming arrows?
Yep.
How do we determine? How do we operate?
I feel like it's something that you grow from, or something that you nurture becoming a Christian.
Yeah.
It's like this. I don't know. I'll call it the sixth sense, just because it's funny.
I think I know what you mean. Let's allow for flexibility here because these are difficult things to describe, aren't they?
Right. And it's like there's two ways that you can look at that situation. I feel you can look at it in, man, these are some flaming arrows. These cops are annoying.
Traffic breakdown.
I need to get to where I'm going because I want to spread this.
Right.
I want to complete this mission.
Yeah.
The other way is, does God want me to do this?
Right.
Is this what I'm supposed to be doing?
Well, one of the things, I'll be really candid with you. One of the things is that I almost gave up on this podcast.
Right. Yeah.
We had 2 different computers donated for this. Both of them ran into all kinds of trouble. When I tried to update the computers, it didn't update it. It actually sent it back like 5 operating systems back. And now I'm stuck in that old operating system and it won't upgrade. I can't even search the internet. And so I'm like, God, do you not want me to podcast? Like what? And I guess I had to pray about it. I prayed about it, and it seems trivial, right? But it's not. And I'm like, no, God just basically gave me this sixth sense, this conviction.
Yep.
It was like, nope, Eli wants to do this. You want to do this. Your purpose is to serve me. Your purpose is to help encourage people. You get to spend time with people in the community. We will probably eventually have guests on.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many positive things. And I'm just sort of like, I went back to these are arrows. We got to keep plugging on. And I can't point to any particular scripture passage and say, well, the scripture would inform that in a particular way any more than the ones we've already described.
So I think it's a basic human fundamental. I think when our day-to-day lives are like an onion, right?
Yeah.
And being a Christian, I think we're very what's the word I'm looking for?
What is the word you're looking for?
Like self-understanding.
Okay.
And
self-awareness.
Self-aware, yes, that's what I was looking for. We're very self-aware.
By the way, just for fun, I don't want to distract you, but I actually think that self-awareness is a holy grail, if you will, of maturity.
Yeah, it is.
It's a holy grail.
when you pay attention,
we could do a whole series on self-awareness.
Tune in next Wednesday or Thursday, whatever
Yeah.
day of the week it is.
Yeah.
But it's almost like an onion, right?
Okay.
And when you have all the layers and stuff, it looks really, really complicated. You start peeling layers away.
Yeah.
You're getting to what you call what my father calls the root cause.
Okay. Okay.
Which anytime you go through a difficult situation, that's what he does. And he taught me that, and I'm very thankful for it because that's something that I hold to my heart. Anytime I go through a situation,
right,
I look at the root cause of it. I'm like, okay, why did this happen? Why is this happening?
Right.
What am I doing that is making this happen? What I.
Right.
And when you have a mission, you want to go to Wisconsin, your heart has the passion to spread the word of God in Wisconsin. But your mind is upset because you can't do that the way that you want to.
Yeah.
I'm getting to something here.
I'm with you, man. I'm tracking.
And I think success doesn't come easy.
Okay.
Muhammad Ali, dude trained for hours, years, thousands of hours.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And look where, and he became one of the best boxers ever, if not the best. I didn't think this podcast was going to be the Joe Rogan podcast as soon as we started it. Ain't no way.
We're not smoking and drinking.
No. But if you watch like his first podcast compared to what he does now, totally different, miles apart. Success comes with work.
Yeah.
And I think they're flaming arrows when there's any advancement of God's kingdom.
Yeah.
But I also think he likes to pester you and bully you.
Yeah.
And
and so
he lives rent free in your head.
And so you can kind of have this sense
and
you're being bullied when you're being bullied.
Yes. And so it's like eventually you become immune to it in a way where it's like, hey, I fell on the ground. You learn to laugh at it a little bit. If you fall on the ice 4 times in one day, by the 4th time you're going to probably laugh or cry and then laugh about crying later.
All right, so I'll close with this story, okay?
Right.
And then we could wrap
Did that make sense what I was trying to say?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was trying to pull it out of my crazy
So when Lisa and I were first married, eventually we got pregnant and Annika comes along, and I do not recall at what age Annika was, but I think she was something around 2 when there was an opportunity for Lisa to fly back to Wisconsin, Milwaukee, okay, which is convenient that I thought of going up to Wisconsin, right, because we've hit all that crap in the traffic. So but at the time we were in Philly, okay, so she flies from Philly to Wisconsin, and this is the first time that I am going to be solo taking care of the Annika. I wasn't afraid of it at all. And I was excited for her because she had an opportunity to go back, and I don't remember why she was going. But anyhow, so she flies, and I dropped her off the airport. It was an evening flight. Came home, put Annika to sleep. She lays down, no problems, right? And in the middle of the night, Annika is crying, and I go in there, and she is violently sick, and she's throwing up. So I had to clean her all up. I had to take all the bed sheets and clean them up. I had to find new bed sheets in the middle of the night. Okay, this happens 3 more times. Okay? We don't have any more bed sheets now at this point. Okay? It's like 4 a.m, and I'm thinking, there were only 3 sets of sheets for this bed that we got this girl. And I'm like, that's a lot to begin with. So I'm thinking, okay, I got to get her sheets. So I take some of our queen size, right? Because she had a smaller bed. And I'm going to put the queen size on, and I'm having to, fake it, like tuck it around the corners, right? And she had some curtains. It is it is like 3:34 in the morning. Okay, Annika is lying on the floor in like a little blanket that I put on her. You know, she is miserable, and I am trying to tuck the sheet, and it's around the bed, and the bed is right up against the wall, and Annika has these drapes, right? And when I kneeled down, somehow the drape got caught underneath my knee, and it pulled the entire bar off of the wall. And we had plaster walls in this old house that was built in the 50s. So plaster pieces fell on my head, and the bar, I mean, bro, bonk, right on my head. And you know what I did? I just started cracking up. I started laughing.
Yeah.
I was like, this is just classic. And so sometimes, you know, if bad things happen to you, even if it's not a flaming arrow or even if it is, you can laugh at these things.
I mean, with that being said, too, I think it is just a mental standpoint in a way.
Yeah.
It's how you look at the situation.
How you take it.
How you tear the onion layers. How you look at it. When you get to the core of that onion, it's really not that bad. You know?
Yeah, like I knew several things about that circumstance. Number one, it was going to be fine. Number two, so I got less sleep. It's going to make a great story.
Yeah.
And it does. You know what I mean? And that there was no sense in being enraged, or let's say that was a flaming arrow. Let's say the devil wants to tempt me to go back to being a angry, bitter person, right? No, we're not doing that. You know, we're not doing that today. Not today, Satan. Not today.
I probably would have laughed at you too if the thing came down.
Dude, it was funny. You have to admit it.
Yeah.
We should have that thing on video. It'd make good comedy.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, there's been times where I've been taking the trash cans down to the end, and my driveway's covered in ice because I was too lazy to use the snowblower. You know, it is my fault from the get-go that I fell in the first place. So I have no right to be upset.
Right.
But, you know, I'm halfway down, I trip, and bam.
There you go.
Just right there. And I'll just lay there and I'll accept it. I'm like, all right. No, I mean, do I get angry? Yes.
Sure.
Do I get angry as much as I used to? No. And it's good. Like, the more and more immune you are to the tricks and the crap and the flaming arrows, the less they hurt. Because you start to understand that God fixes them every single time.
Yep.
And it's like, I mean, funny thing here, I had my Jetta a while back, and
I remember the Jetta.
And the whole camshaft thing, it took a crap, and you know, Volkswagen quoted it like $14,000 or something crazy, and you know, yeah, it's like more than the price of the car. And so we just got a brand new engine for it, and you know, I just like everything. Like we got the new engine, everything was fine. I'm driving to work one day, and the battery dies, even though I just replaced the battery not even a year before that. That same day, like it sucks. I was mad that morning. You know, I was mean to my dogs because they were getting on my nerves, and you know, I mean, like if you knew my dogs, you'd understand.
Your dogs are great.
Yeah, well,
they have their own personalities.
But you know, on top of everything that was upsetting me, my battery dies.
Yeah.
And so, Jillian, on her way to Starbucks, without even getting Starbucks, has to turn around to help me jump my car. And so, I'm upset.
That made her very happy.
Oh, yeah. I'm embarrassed. I'm upset. It's. I've got like 10 minutes to get to work.
Right.
Blah blah blah. And so, I get to work finally after my car started, and no. I drive my car back to the house.
Right.
Park it in the garage. She has to take me to work, so now I don't have a car.
Wow.
I get my new truck the same day.
There you go.
And I didn't even think it was gonna happen.
Dude, your truck is awesome.
Yeah.
I do like your truck.
She's nice.
Yeah.
But
super cool.
I mean, but it's like I can look back on that day and just kind of think about it. Like, did I have to get that angry?
Yeah.
Did I have to react the way that I did? Like, if I can go back and change it, I would.
Right.
Did I have to be such a crybaby about it? Like, you know,
these are all just growing things, right?
Yeah, the growing pains, and it's like learning that what's important, it is important to understand that you could have reacted different.
Right, right.
But what's really important is the next situation and how you handle that.
Yeah, you grow from it.
Yeah, and then learning to build that mental fortitude up is what is going to make those flaming arrows sting less in the future, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
and
man.
I think the longer you are a Christian, the more you delve into the Word, the more you understand God and what He does for you, the less they burn and sting a
Yeah.
lot. And it's like you can almost laugh at a lot of it.
Yeah, I just think that I go back to the shield of faith, and I think you're talking about just a little bit of the side you're talking about is like just one's personal growth
Yeah.
emotionally.
Yeah.
And then also you can stare something that's just awful in the face and shield it
Yep.
and say, God's in this. It's not going to destroy me. And then you
know.
can choose to laugh or you can choose to cry,
Yep.
whatever your appropriate emotional response. But you do not have to let it stop you or defeat you.
My grandfather got colon cancer.
Okay.
And, everybody was, it was a rough time.
Yeah.
And, the most confident person in the room was the one that had the colon cancer. My grandfather, I mean, the level of love he has for the Lord is something that I aspire to have.
That's a good legacy right there.
Yeah. And he wasn't even bothered by it. He's like, I'm not going to even worry about it. I mean, obviously, there might have been some anxieties and stuff. I mean, you have cancer. But he was 100% confident that the Lord would handle it. That he's like, God has this. I called him on the phone, and he asked me if I was scared. And I was like, you know what? I'm right there with you, honestly.
Good.
I just finished praying about it. I know that God has a plan for it.
Right.
I don't even think it metastasized. It's gone.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
I think it just,
yeah,
I mean, he had surgery and everything.
And there it was. That arrow did not touch you. You put the shield of faith up. You said, look.
And that's a big flaming arrow.
You got to trust God on this one.
Yeah. And that's just years and years and years of him understanding God and his plan.
Wow.
And it's like, so that giant flaming arrow just disintegrated to him.
Nice.
And it's like, that's how I look at flaming arrows, and that's how I'm able, I guess, to understand what they are. When I think the closer you get to God, the stronger them arrows get.
Yeah.
And it's like, for new Christians, every arrow is hard.
Yeah. Right.
Every arrow hurts.
Yeah.
Because they've never had to go to God for pain.
Right.
Or go to God for recovery, I should say. Or, they've never had to rely on someone else.
Yeah.
There's like this sense of independence that they don't want to give up.
Oh, that was huge when I was new Christian. Huge.
It's like, my problems
I did not have a connected sense to God.
They're problems, but
right.
God, I understand you got a busy schedule. Don't worry about it. I got it.
Wow.
And it's like learning that God cares about every single one of those arrows.
Yeah.
Will change your entire perspective on things. It's like I've learned that me stubbing my toe and a car crash are the same thing to him. And he wants to be there for you through all of it. And I mean, car crash in my mind is just something that's severe, but it can be anything.
Could be anything.
Cancer.
Yeah, cancer, sickness.
And, my grandfather, he's a tough dude too. He's tough.
Is he still alive?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Nice and healthy too.
Really?
Still does like a gazillion pull-ups, I'm sure. He has like a gazebo by his pool, and I remember when I was a kid, I could see him doing pull-ups, just like man pull-ups with wood and stuff. Yeah. Dude's crazy. I love him though. But I mean, it's just like it's like I want to be that guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
To have that much faith in God, knowing that everything's fine, regardless of how crappy it looks.
Yeah.
Regardless of how many tears around me, it's like I'm not even worried about it. He was like, you know what? If I go, I go. I know where I'm going.
Yep. That's the best attitude.
Either way, I win.
Nice. Well, I think with that, we should close.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is good stuff. And
aren't
we supposed to say, hey, like and subscribe? All right, till next time, tune into the Bridgepoint Godcast podcast,
Extravaganza.
whatever we're talking
3000
with Matthew and Eli.
Yeah.